Welcome to the Healthy Christian Leader. I'm Dwight Habermehl. Come join me in the living room for some honest conversations. I'll be talking to guests about their journey with Christ through the joys, the challenges, and the messiness of leadership. There's always something to learn from someone's story, so let's get started. Well, hello, friends, and welcome to the Healthy Christian Leader. I'm Dwight Habermehl, and I have our guest, John Campbell, here today. And John, you're from Acadia Divinity College here in Nova Scotia. And you've got an interesting role because you're involved, of course, in fundraising, but you're also oversee technology for the whole of the campus. And that's quite a critical role in today's world.
It is. It's great to be here with you today. But yeah, the role is everything from ordering the laptops to training faculty and students that are there at the Divinity College on the use of technology and some experimental things that we do. And so sometimes I say if it plugs in or has Wi-Fi, I'm in charge of it there at the college. So it keeps me busy.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm sure it does. Now you have a technology background. Education in computer science, and you've also been a ministry person, like a person in ministry. How does all that connect?
Yeah, the Lord gifted me with a brain that just works well with technology. And so I had done my undergraduate in computer science and had started working in the IT field and experienced a call to ministry and wrestled with that and wondered why the Lord would give me all this tech experience and then call me into ministry thinking, oh, I'll never use that. But I think he laughs at me sometimes. And so, yeah, I ended up going into ministry, spent about 13 years pastoral ministry before being called back to Acadia to work at the seminary. And so I've been there ever since in my 12th year there now.
Wow, that's amazing. And technology is really coming in to almost every field, like a freight train now.
Yeah.
With AI, and but it's actually coming in and impacting pastoral ministry and education as well. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so cool that God placed you where you are right now because, as we talked earlier in the program, if you get behind, in the advancement of where culture is going with technology.
Yeah.
You start to miss the boat in a lot of things.
Well, when you look at the history of the church has always had this love-hate relationship with technology. Everything from the written book to the printing press to broadcast media. And I think the church has done well when it has leaned into the technologies available for it to advance the kingdom and its leadership. And not always worked out well. There's a learning phase that we always go through. But for today, I think it's really important for leaders, for ministries, in my case, seminaries, really to understand the technology and to wrestle with how to use it well. I'm a big fan of technology in general, and I'm all for using whatever tools are available that are right and good and ethical for the advancement of the kingdom. And I think this is a great opportunity for the church to be able to leverage these tools.
No, that's I agree with you 100%. And the title of our conversation today is The World of AI and its implication for pastoral ministry, which I think is a fascinating topic. So let's just jump right in with the first question. John, what do you see are the most promising AI tools currently available for pastoral ministry tasks?
Yeah, I think the first thing I need to say just to preface the answer is that when we talk about AI, that's a really big term. And we've been living with forms of artificial intelligence for some time. So your Spotify playlist, the recommended for you, or your Netflix, or even doing a Google search, those are all forms of artificial intelligence. And so we're familiar with those, right? Of course, going and researching and doing Google searches, and the list goes on and on. In recent years, it's really been the explosion of a particular type of artificial intelligence that we call a large language model. So these are your things like your Chat GPTs and your Google Geminis. And this kind of AI now is being integrated into a lot of products we've already have. So, for example, I know a lot of pastors use a piece of software called Logos. It's a very well-known kind of research tool for ministry leaders. And they've recently integrated a number of different AI tools into it. So it's not necessarily a standalone product, but all of a sudden it's going beyond necessarily just being able to do a simple word search through all the books that you might own. But the AI is actually able to come in and summarize or to draw connections in more intelligent ways across it. And so I've been quite impressed with that as a tool for just sermon preparation or studying. Another great use is in just translation of scriptures. Now, this may not be a daily pastoral task, but in the world where people who are translating scriptures into languages that don't have it, being able to train an AI on the targeted language could speed up the process of what maybe have taken a lifetime for somebody to translate even the New Testament into a new language, has accelerated that even to a year. And so it's opening up avenues into people groups across the world that we may not have had opportunity to do so. But even on the local level with translation, and so here in Halifax, certainly where I live down the Annapolis Valley, we're seeing greater diversity in our communities as people come and it is a huge blessing. But one of the challenges is the many more languages that are being spoken. And so being able to use AI tools for translation of written materials, but even translation of real-time events. So churches are starting to use AI technologies to real-time translate the services. And so people can sit and listen or read to the sermon or to the service in their own language in real time. So opening up these doors for communication.
And that's huge. It really is huge.
Yeah, it is. And it's, in some ways it opens up this door to this beautiful picture that we find in Revelation of every tongue and tribe and nation and people group being able to worship. And we're starting to see little glimmers of that. I'm not sure that the writer of Revelation, that was what they had in mind, but yet it's still a practical way that we can do that. And so there's lots of other tools, even just using something like ChatGPT is the one that I use, but all of them kind of do the same thing, and just daily administrative uses of taking notes for meetings, right? Transcribing meetings. Right. Having a conversational partner. I use my AI all the time, and I just turn on the voice mode and I'll have a talk with it because I like talking and I process verbally. Mm-hmm. And so even to be able to think through, sometimes it acts as a second pair of eyes. So maybe you're going through and saying, okay, I've developed my teaching series for this year. A lot of pastors will lay those out months, blocks, as you're preaching X number of series, and then be able to give it to the AI and say, what am I missing, right? Mm-hmm. Or I could do that for the last 20 years of sermons that I've done and put it in and give it some context and say, what areas of faith or work am I not talking about? And it can be kind of a second set of eyes and allow you in a private, confidential way to get some of that feedback. And look, I was a pastor and I know that can be intimidating, to sit down with a colleague and be like, hey, read my sermon and tell me theologically where I might be, off the boat, or what topics am I not covering, or what's my hobby horse as a preacher. We all have them. Mm-hmm. But this is a way to kind of get that, feedback maybe a little bit more privately.
No, that's very interesting. And you definitely see AI coming into applications of every stream. Yeah. And it isn't just in ministry. No. You and I had the conversation earlier. It has impacted every element of our business here in our design build company. Yeah. And if we don't engage with this, we get behind the competition, regardless of how we feel about it.
Yeah, and as I've met people and talked with everything from, I met this potato farmer over the summer in PEI who installed a multi-million-dollar AI potato grading system. He's wrestling with. I'm in an educational setting where the use of AI is hotly contested. We've just had a seminar at Acadia called, is the essay dead? Is this the death of an essay? Because AI tools can be used improperly. Mm-hmm. But it's impacting, virtually every area. I have not found an industry yet where AI is not making some sort of impact. And so as leaders, we need to stay on top of these things that are disrupting, that are enhancing, that maybe are damaging,
Right.
but we still need to know and to
So that
understand.
we can basically guide the integration process.
Yeah, and especially if you're a ministry leader, because there's one of the application of you need to know how to use it and how it's going to impact your work, but you need to understand how it's impacting the work of the people in your pew, so that you can minister to them, so that when you're sitting down for a pastoral call, 20 minutes is not spent on them telling you what AI is. Like, you need to know what that is, and so that you can focus on the important things.
Well, it's interesting, as I've worked with people here in the company, which is a totally different context.
Yeah.
There is, so much concern around AI, and yet so much intrigue. Like, you find both sides, but most people understand that if we don't understand this and we don't use it as a tool, we are going to lose our ability to interact with the world that's around us, and keep competitive and be able to stay on top of things.
Yeah.
I like what you had said earlier about the point, and it's a bit of a bunny trail, but is the point of, you can, the only person who's going to lose their job with AI is the person who's not willing to learn AI and how to apply it.
Yeah.
Or something along that
Yeah,
line.
so we see this all the time. So I'm sure your employees, everybody's employees, and people are worried about losing their job. AI means automation. It means doing things that maybe were manually or human done before in faster ways. And so there's always this fear of job loss. And, in a post-secondary education world, professors and TAs, what if my AI can do the marketing? Do I have to hire TAs? And what I generally tell people is that, you won't lose your job to AI, at least not yet, not in the foreseeable future, but you will lose your job to somebody who uses AI better than you. It doesn't take long to go through, through LinkedIn and look at job postings and see that AI is being included, and knowledge. It's a technical skill. Like, we expect people to know how to use a computer, be proficient in Microsoft Word, and these are just standard things. Well, the use of AI in your work is just going to be a standard tool in the toolbox of employees that employers are looking for.
So, John, in what ways can AI enhance the sermon preparation and theological research?
Yeah, on the research side, that's the easier side to answer, because AI is integrated, has been integrated into a lot of our tools. I talked about Logos. We have our library at Acadia that our students, but also alumni, have access to. And so a lot of people with theological degrees, they can go through, and AI is there to help summarize articles. I just taught a class back in the spring on this as a continuing education program, and I used AI to help me find journal articles and things that I could go through and use, and so it made it easier that way. Now, of course, with AI, you always have to check. You always want to see its sources. Don't take it at face value, but you can still use it to go and search the web, because it has that capability now, and to find those tools. But an AI is really good in helping craft a sermon. The way that I like to use it is I don't let the AI write the sermon for me. I will sit down and do the hard work, the prayer and the discernment, and knowing the context and the people that I'm preaching to, and then writing the sermon. But I will take what I've written and I'll bring it to it and say, what point am I missing? Are there other things I should consider? Are there other scripture verses? Here are the ones that I've brought in to support the things I'm teaching on. What are some others? What are some other theological viewpoints I may want to consider? And so again, it becomes a conversational partner. Sometimes I use it to help me, alliterate my points, right? Classic preaching sort of thing, to help people memorize. And I'll say, here are the points I'm making. Give me some suggestions on how I can alliterate this, or how can I take this rambling sentence that I have and make it sharp into a sentence, or that's a memorable kind of quote. And it is brilliant for that, to help you do it. You would never just take what it gives you and 100% accept it. But I'll say, give me 3 or 4, and then I'll take it and I'll take one and I'll work with it and make it my own, and to be using it. So there are good uses for it. But the hard part is we need to learn how to use that tool well. The biggest danger always is, plagiarism, even in writing sermons, has always existed, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, years ago, they'd go to a book somewhere and pull it off. And I know a fellow who used to sell sermons, actually.
Exactly.
So,
And in recent years, there's, I won't name the websites, but there are websites today that you can go and you can buy other people's sermons and preach them.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is not a new problem.
Yeah.
And like I talk about in the educational setting, plagiarism and cheating in students has always existed. This is just a new form
more
of that.
challenging, but you throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of question.
Yeah.
So how might AI, and sorry about the tickle in my throat today, how might AI help small churches with limited administrative capacity?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is to a church, if you're considering using this, bite the bullet and pay for it. $20 a month is kind of what they're all going for. For some churches, that is an investment, and I understand that. But encourage you to do that because it opens up a lot more tools to you. And the second is that it keeps your information private. It doesn't ingest it into the model and use it. When you use the free ones, it takes everything you put in. And so I recommend anybody using it for any kind of way to, first of all, just pay that $20. So it is an investment, but it's an important investment. And so churches can use it. I think of the pastor who's in a local church who's like the sole employee, right? May not even have somebody to help do up the bulletin. So it's great for even just pulling together things. So, I like to turn it on again, verbal processor, I'll turn it on and be like, okay, here are the things I need, right? And you can almost dictate the announcements to it and let it draft those for you. So you may be able to find that. You could take what's ever written or something, put it in, another eyes for spell check. You may want to take something, let's say you're writing a devotional and so you've written this devotional, but you want to adapt it to use with the youth on Friday night. You could say, hey, redo this, but give me some examples that, some, youth 13 to 18-year-olds would understand. And so it can help you in those ways as a tool for creation of new things, reviewing or brainstorming with you, or repackaging and repurposing, social media, your bulletin, your slides, you name it. There's lots of really great uses.
Well, and something we talked about earlier, even meeting notes, you just record them with your voice recorder on your Apple iPhone and convert it to text. And
and all of a sudden your minutes for the deacons meeting is done. You can email it to them by the time they hit the parking lot. It could be out of your inbox and one less thing to do.
Yeah, and you can invest that time more wisely in other places.
Doing important things,
What are some of the boundaries? Those are, some of the benefits that we've talked about. And we did talk about some of the ethical risks in using them. So what should boundaries, or how should they be set as pastors?
Yeah, so I would say, first of all, be transparent in your usage. So if you are a pastor, whether you're multi, staff kind of church, or you're solo pastoring, or whatever your leadership role is, talk to your board, talk to your deacons, talk to your elders, talk to them about the ways that you're using this, and be upfront about it. Like, you don't want to, use AI and then somebody accuse you of, misusing this in a sermon or whatever. So that's the first step is be transparent. The second thing is, don't use it to do the heavy work. There are certain things as a ministry leader that only you can do, that God has called you to do. And those are you to do. Now, again, there's ways that an AI can help you in those, but you shouldn't be seeking to replace yourself or to do that, right? Like, hospital visitation is hard, right? It is gut-wrenching to sit by the bed of somebody who's dying. Giving somebody an iPad with an AI conversational assistant is not an acceptable replacement. You still have to do the hard work. And so, I think for those two things, and then the third really is we have to make sure that we trust but verify the things that an AI are producing or things that are writing or to do, because it could be wrong. We sometimes jokingly talk in a university setting about an AI is basically an enthusiastic first-year teaching assistant. They want to please you. They try really hard, but they don't always get things quite right. And so you still you can't give up full oversight to AI systems yet.
But generally, AI is listing its references at the bottom.
It will if you ask it, and that's part of using the tool well. And so that's one of my practices. What I do, I say, do this thing for me and list your references. Or if it's reviewing a document for me, like summarize this and give me examples of that summary or the footnotes to this, big document that I'm reading, right?
Right.
And so you need to learn how to use the tool so that it acts in a more responsible way.
So can you share, we've got about 3 or 4 minutes left, a specific story or example where AI could really help in a ministry context?
Yeah. I'll give you 2 quick ones. I was meeting with a pastor and I was showing her some of the things it could do. And she said to me, I've always really wanted to write a devotional based on my sermons. I just don't have the time, and I'd love to make a devotional book. And I said, well, watch this. And so I opened up an AI and I took 20 of my sermons that I had just there on my hard drive, dumped it into the thing and said, for each one, write me a devotional, a 5-day devotional based on each of my sermons. And so it gave me and it spits it out. And so it shows, and she thought this was wonderful. And I said, now go and then work with this. This is your first draft, right? Mm-hmm. And so she's off writing this devotional material, and I've been talking to her, and she mentioned that she's even doing this kind of with taking the weekly sermon and putting her sermon in, so it's using good source content, and then it's creating small group material for her church, right? Tiny little church, like 60, 70 people, and so it's creating this material that's theologically rooted in her tradition and where she's comfortable with, but creating material that is context sensitive, right? So it's not written by someone somewhere that doesn't understand these people, but it's it's a tool being used. The other big one is watching churches now. I know there's a couple here in Halifax that are doing it, and a few other I've been working with exploring it, is using real-time translation of services. Yeah. So as we see more and more people from all over the world come to, in our case, Atlantic Canada, but this is happening all over, the multitude of languages. And so language can be a barrier to the gospel. Mm-hmm. And so these churches who, basically just have run an audio feed into a computer, people sit there with a smartphone and they can read the live subtitles in their chosen language or even listen to it. And it just provides these amazing opportunities. And the technology is young, still bugs, not perfect, but it's come a long way in a year, and it's exciting to watch how all of a sudden that we could have churches where language is no longer a barrier.
No, it's amazing. I go to Rock Church here in town, and it is a larger church. And, we have become very multicultural as the city has changed. Yes. And as a company here, our company, we have 40 employees, 50 employees, depending. And they probably are 50%, if not more, people, the Nova Scotian term is from away. Yes. But they're, different, from different countries, different languages. And we've actually had to really depend on it. But that's the community that we find ourselves in, and the gospel needs to go forth. It is. So it's such an awesome tool to have available. John, such a great privilege to have you here and talk about this vital topic. And I know it's a hot one, but thank you for taking the time. And we'll see you next time on The Healthy Christian Leader. Well, today's conversation was fantastic, but we're not finished yet. We'll be back in the next video with the same guest with more discussion about leader health. You know the drill. Subscribe and hit that bell. Would you join us for the next episode? You can find new episodes every week in video form on the Aaron Ministry YouTube page and in audio form as the Healthy Christian Leader Show wherever you get your podcasts. Aaron Ministries is an interdenominational network of friends in ministry with a mission to foster healthy Christian leaders. Check out our website, aaronministries.com, for more resources and information on how to donate or to start a healthy Christian leader gathering in your area. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.